Turns out that simple life just wasn't so simple. Somebody waiting at home. I'm running with the devil. I feel like I should jump up and do a mid-air splits or something like David Lee Roth.
Yeah,
You should.
you can do that. You have the whole AI camera, so it'll
Yeah, that's true.
around the
That's true.
background.
Like, of course.
Welcome to IoT Coffee Talk, folks.
Yes.
What's up?
Just a bunch of hooligans.
Yeah,
Again,
Not to be taken seriously.
not at all.
I don't know.
Absolutely not. That's what we're about. Yeah. So yeah, I finally got COVID.
Welcome to the club.
Are we supposed to congratulate you? Or?
Yeah, like what do we say? What do we say?
I have no idea what you're supposed to say. I have no idea why I even brought it up. But
Thoughts
Did
and
you
prayers?
feel bad at all, or have any symptoms?
yeah, I still feel a little weird, not quite on. I have a little bit of the brain fog going on, just slight, I think. But I didn't have a fever, didn't have a cough. My sense of smell went away.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of lingering a lot longer than I thought it would, given that I'm like,
Well, take advantage of the loss of sense of smell and go to a trade show like today. And,
really.
you don't have to smell anyone at all.
And on a technical note, Leonard, I think your microphone levels are lower than normal.
Oh, really? How about that?
Now you're back. Yes. I had it cranked up to hear you, and then everybody else was super loud.
Okay. And
happens.
you couldn't hear the guitar at all, huh?
No, I
Very,
couldn't hear it,
very
but it was quieter than normal.
quiet.
All right. See, you always have to do a sound check. Whoops.
Check, check, baby, check. One,
At least,
It's the brain cloud.
I know your mic, Leonard, doesn't have embedded IoT, because if it
No, it
did,
doesn't.
for you to switch the volume, you probably will have to pay a subscription.
Yeah.
No, but it'll be marketed really
It
nice.
would be a SaaS.
You know what? It'll be marketed probably where, the OEM of the microphone, they think that, they know better how you're going to use it. So they will give you a freemium option of volume based on their research. But at the time that you want to adjust that, you're going to have to accept some terms and conditions that you'll never read. And you're going to have to take a monthly subscription that's worth a third of the value of the hardware for you to be able to control the volume up and down.
Wow. Okay. All right.
Hey, BMW is doing it if you want heated seats. Toyota's doing it if you want the key fob. GM is doing it with let's just go crazy, folks.
Did you have a bad week?
No.
You're going off on the whole X-ass model, man. Come on.
Well, you said GM's doing it. Like, I guess right now with my new vehicle, as soon as the 30-day window or whatever expired, I started getting all the notices. Every time I tried to use my Google, hey Google, blah 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 blah, they were like, "Oh, you're not connected to data. You need to set up a data plan." And I was like,
What?
You just think that you get all that good stuff, but no, everything's just you got. So you also have roadside assistance. You got to pay for that by the month. So all of the data plans, I think, on the vehicle are getting out of control.
Wow. This is feeling like the pain that everyone's going through as they abandoned cable TV and went to 25 different streaming services.
Right. Now the wave is, we're on the upwave for the vehicle data apps. So we're incurring charges for all of those apps.
Yeah, and you pay more.
A lot more.
When you had cable. Yeah, I mean, and this is that whole the cars turning into your iPhone thing, right? And people getting this idea in the automakers' heads that they should be selling services and apps. And
do we ever think that do we, generally speaking, do you guys ever think there'll be a SaaS backlash?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I'm just curious, everybody's like, oh, we're moving to SaaS and it's all subscriptions and it's better for keeping people around forever. And,
yeah,
the back side of that will be just cancellations, or there's going to be a company that comes up just like they've done with some of these mobile apps where they will look across all of your apps and go, you're not using this. You're not using this. Do you want to cancel? And you pay that company a service fee to go ahead and manage all that and cancel the stuff that you're not using. Like my son, he's got a green light card. Have you guys ever heard of green light?
No.
It's kind of a cool credit card. It's a cool way to get your younger kids on a credit card system. And it's tied to, the parent's account. You can transfer money into it, and then you can transfer money into their so-called card. And then I can see everything that he spends money on, and I can even, block some places and see every little detail or approve every little transaction. But with him, he has so many $5 gaming monthly recurring charges that are popping up for Stream, for, Roblox, and so when I started looking at all that, and you start adding all that up, it's like $50 a month.
Yeah.
Just for all these little add-on monthly recurring charges I don't even know what he's doing with all of those gaming apps. So, and I probably should know. I probably should pay a little bit more attention to that because I've already busted him. But that's another thing that's happening, I think, with the younger generation is, hey, Mom, can I add this? Can I add this? Can I add this? And they seem cheap. Oh, $5? Okay.
Yeah.
But
they add up. Yeah.
They add up. And then you're like, are they really using this?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, streaming services, a lot of them, I have some, and my carrier provides one for free, or, it's bundled in, and I never use it, but if I was paying for it, it would just be another, whatever, $10 that it goes completely unutilized,
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it's,
all the startups are SaaS startups these days. They're the ones who are getting funded because the multiples are the best. And so everybody's like, I better do SaaS. But every once in a while, I talk to certain kinds of businesses in different industries, and they're like, no, we want to own it. We just want to pay for it. We have the cash right here, and we want to pay the capital cost.
Yeah.
Crazy talk, but yes.
Well, I mean, you know what? I appreciate the companies that offer me the option of paying for the whole year in a little bit of a discount than paying the monthly recurring charge and just forgetting about it. Yeah. I'd rather just get that chunk out of the way. It makes me feel like I've checked off something on the debt list or something. I don't know what it is mentally, but I feel better about that kind of purchase.
Yeah. I mean, I think, so last week we talked about the whole Google IoT Core being sunset. Basically. Wait,
Google sunsetted something? No. Dude, you're lying.
Impossible. But, I went on a rant, but Rob, you've brought up an important priority that it seems a lot of developers don't seem to recognize, is this idea of longevity. When people buy IoT stuff, they don't want to constantly be paying for stuff on a constant basis, right? Sometimes they just want it to work, deployed in the field, and it's fire and forget. And so this idea that folks will want to introduce technology that needs to be constantly updated, that has to have a developer's attention focused on it constantly, doesn't make sense either for the developer or the customer. And that was something that kind of popped into my head last night. As I was kind of just thinking about nothing and suffering from brain cloud. So
IoT is forever, or at least for a long time. People, especially industry, they deploy stuff in a factory, they deploy stuff, smart meters. It's not just for a couple of years or a few weeks.
Yeah.
It's for 10 years, 20 years, indefinitely. So the gear's got to work all that time. I know we've talked about this stuff before.
We have.
I don't know if people who are in this space building these solutions, I don't know if they all take it that seriously.
I don't think so. I think that's why we keep bringing it back up. It's like a zombie, we just keep resurrecting it.
Not like a startup where your startup is some web app.
Yeah.
This is like real hardware stuff. Yeah. that needs to be maintained and updated and, like that thing. You never know.
Is that the Blues Wireless?
Yes, we should give a shout out to Blues Wireless. So interesting deal. I guess they're just going to get some props right now. So, they've got their note card and the carrier board and the note card. An interesting little tidbit. You still need to put a case on this, but if you want to just do tracking of a machine or something like I'm going to maybe do some tracking of trucks, for instance, I don't have to get the attachment for Arduino or Raspberry Pi or Feather or whatever, ESP32. There's enough stuff built into this out of the box. It has GPS, GNSS. It's got accelerometer, so it only sends stuff when the thing is moving. It actually even has temperature, I think. And then they make it easy. You don't have to do AT commands and everything to do the cellular stuff. It's just JSON to make it work. And you can just buy this thing and then duct tape it to whatever you want to track, and you've got a tracking solution. You didn't have to do anything else. You didn't have to build some other, you didn't have to use a microcontroller or a single board computer. Anyway, I think it's kind of fun and interesting.
Yeah,
I recommend the command strips. They work really well.
Command strips to stick things.
Yeah. Double-sided tape.
Yeah, I think I've seen those around the house.
I think you just made duct tape the next big VC investment.
Yes. So anyway, shout out to our friends. What is it? We've got Ray Ozzie, MobiCon out there at Blues Wireless. I think we're going to run into them.
Hey, Mobine.
At Las Vegas, right? At Mobine shouted out to me. I think he wants to meet up at MWC America.
Oh, okay, cool. Right on.
Yeah.
I finally got my credentials approved, so I guess I'm greenlit to go. I just need to book a flight, a hotel.
Yeah, I got to book a flight, find a cheap hotel since. No, it's good stuff. Now, obviously, the different thing with Blues, part of their model is the data is going to their cloud, and then you have to get the data from them and put it into your IoT platform or analytics or whatever. And so you've got to kind of do a bridge type thing, which is not unlike, I know Sigfox. I don't want to put them in the same category, but Sigfox kind of had a similar thing as far as where data went to, and you had to pull it from them. Anyway, but you know what? The idea about reducing friction for developers and people to get stuff running is always a good idea, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
So
cheaper.
Yeah. Yep. If the cost meets your requirements, it's simple enough to get to value quickly, and it's reliable, then good stuff. So we'll see how it goes. Fun. Yeah.
So hey, David, you haven't been around for a while. You haven't been on the show for quite some time. What's up, man?
Just summer travel with the kids, and it just it didn't work out to hang out with you guys. But I did see Mark in Barcelona a few weeks ago, and
that's awesome. Not enough pictures.
Well, at least one picture.
Yeah.
No, but just busy. Topical stuff is all the I don't know, back to your zombie comment. It's like a lot of the same things, like all this cybersecurity stuff with IoT, and I mean, nothing different. It's like, look, if you bought something from someone without reputation, and you never bother about asking questions or updating or patching, why are you shocked? So it's more of the same. But you also, in something that I don't think has anything to do with IoT, but you have cybersecurity firms that are doing very, 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 very well, which is good for business, good for the stock market, but also like tying things that are not necessarily IoT just to extend their cloud. It's like, dude, like you guys don't even do IoT, so why are you talking about silicon security or microcontroller where like you're doing stuff across the switch? So it's just painful to read because you go paragraph, oh, that's bullshit. No, that's not. And so more of the same. So I just been lots of reading this summer. So that's about it.
Anything interesting or just all technical stuff? You just like critiquing?
Both. No, I picked up. I'm rereading David Copperfield, and it reads differently as an old person now than when I was myself. I'm like, ooh, oh my God, childhood trauma reads differently. My poor. I also picked up, I don't have it here, but you guys have probably seen it around, but I got my kids the Smart Manufacturing book for kids. I'll do a post later. It's super cool. And funny enough, then, they finished the book and they're like, Papa, can we get on YouTube and go look at how it's made? I'm like, yes, that is here. So, and on that, I think, and I think social media is driving this. I think we are having enough of the skills gap that now people are just saying, you know what, like we really have to start super, super early. So you have things like people writing books for kids about manufacturing. You have folks like, and I don't know these folks, but I'm going to plug them. I think they're called Manufacturing Mavens, where they have a YouTube channel dedicated for women in STEM and manufacturing, also targeting, the younger generation. And I think it will be an interesting decade where we're basically saying like, look, we cannot be complaining about a skills gap and do nothing about inspiring, kids to get into the trades. So, there's a lot of good and, in that respect. So I've been following that closely, just, personally interested so that, manufacturing comes back and thrives here, in the US. So that's what I've been reading.
Yeah. I mean, that I've always found that comment interesting, bringing back manufacturing like it was stolen. In fact, I think it's more of we gave up on it.
You're close. You're close. The word gave is in there.
Huh?
The word gave is in there. We didn't give up, but we gave manufacturing to a cheaper country. Remember, all this stuff was done intentionally by the CEOs of American companies to lower the cost of manufacturing. And so it was American companies that actually built the factories in China.
Right.
Taught them how to do it. And then obviously the horses are out of the barn.
Right. But that was the choice of American companies.
Yeah.
When you say bring it back, it connotes that the other side stole it or brought it over.
No, it's like I bring back my kids from school and I take them and I bring them back. So now, but look, semantics matter. So whether it's bringing,
it does,
or reshoring, or just whatever. But the gist is
revamp.
The better attitude is we're going to reconstitute or we're going to rebuild manufacturing here, because the thing is that it's what's most important, and Rob, you highlighted this, is there was a decision to take it over there, but it was our decision. And what I mean by our is American companies, right? Like you said, U.S. CEOs. And then that makes the question of how do we actually bring, how do we reconstitute manufacturing in a competitive way? It frames that question versus you're going to bring back jobs, assembling iPhones in a sweatshop.
Well, I do remember when
those are the jobs that are over there.
It's been quite some time since I've been in college, but the whole focus on just-in-time manufacturing, all of those trends and all of those qualities and all of that whole wave of improving manufacturing was all overseas. And it was part of the process.
Yeah.
Well, not the educational part, but I'm saying the spirit and what we've learned. But a lot of the education and all of that, we saw all of the improvements that were happening over there. We could have just as well jumped on that bandwagon and started spearheading our own, TQM, SEM, just in time. Yeah. But we really just kind of, like Rob said, we gave it away, and it was all about the money instead of the security of securing manufacturing in the United States and having that kind of stronghold. We lost a lot of control, and now we've reached a pinnacle here where supply chain issues they're continuing, and we're just sitting here. A lot of these companies are sitting here just waiting. And, they've got orders they can't fill. They're waiting.
It's funny you said TQM. I mean, TQM was invented by Deming, and Deming came up with all that stuff. He's another genius of management, just like Drucker. And guess who TQM's audience was when people weren't listening to him in the U.S.? Japan. And so he spent all his time in Japan, in post-World War II Japan, and he taught them all that stuff. Yep. And it made Japan a manufacturing superpower. And I remember learning TQM when I was working at a chemical company when I was putting myself through college. And so I learned all about Deming and stuff like that. And so there's lots of great minds out there. It's just who's listening and who's paying attention. When the CEOs were thinking, hey, let's offshore all this manufacturing to China and Vietnam and all the other places, all they were thinking about is margins. They're like, I make a widget and it costs me this much to make, and I can sell it for this. And if I can make it cheaper, and the shipping is cheap enough, then I'm in good shape. What they didn't see coming was that the massive job losses of their workforces happened. And now you got a whole bunch of people who can't afford to buy the things that you're making anymore, because everybody who had great manufacturing jobs don't anymore. And so that's kind of a thing.
But you know what, Rob, I don't think it's that they didn't know. I just think they didn't give a damn.
Yeah, you're right.
And look, we can, I've had, this will be for offline, but there's a lot of these strategies that have been implemented where nothing against MBAs, right? But, it's a lot of these, I went to business school, let me put a year plan, and these things are happening. And, and you do, Stephanie's laughing because it's almost cliche, but that bit that they didn't know, they did know. But, how could you empathize and sympathize when, I think here in the US in the 50s, the average CEO pay was something like 8 to 10x the lowest employee versus now. I mean, none of us will be alive for a billion seconds, right? And so anyway, it's a sore subject, and it's so many things. It's better education for us who have the right to vote, because all the tax breaks that someone may or may not get, support or no support for unions, labor agreements, a lot of these things we get to vote for, but some of us just don't, because if I don't know anyone in a union, so why would I care for that one? It's like, well, no, we should, because what's the union making that you consume? You should care for this. It's stuff that you buy and arriving at a port. Okay, you should probably pay attention to the union. So it's a fun topic and super complex, and good thing we're having coffee about it.
Yes, it is. Yeah, none of the stuff works in a vacuum, does it? It all has interrelationships and affects all kinds of different people and constituencies and groups. Yeah.
And it also has a lot of history. It's like this stuff didn't happen overnight. Like with the whole chips thing, everyone talks like, all of a sudden, we went from 40% manufacturing to to 15, and people go, oh, how did that happen? And
why do you think it happened? It was cheaper to make the chips somewhere else. So let's just do that.
Well,
and if you're a consumer of chips, starting with the PCs and then everything else, you want to get the same quality chips at the cheapest price possible. And, the rise of all these ARM chips, decades ago, and all of a sudden, and so now we talk about chips in cars and chips everywhere and all the phones and everything like that. We sure would love those to be really cheap unit costs because, like for instance, the devices, it's funny. It's really funny. This is an aside with ARM and Intel. Is I remember when people said, oh, Intel really missed the boat on ARM chips and stuff for smartphones. They actually didn't. They actually were one of the first licensees, and they made the pocket PCs were using Intel's strong ARM chips, but then they sold that to Marvell. Anyway, let's a little random chip trivia there for you folks.
I like it.
They didn't think they tried it and they didn't think there was a future. So they blew it off because there was more money in PCs and servers and laptops and stuff.
Yeah.
Go figure. Short-sighted. But you're right. Then you have TSMC cranking its stuff out, right?
Yeah. I mean, American company Apple really drove that huge inflection,
And these are discussions that have happened forever in another very high-cost manufacturing superpower, which is Germany.
Yeah.
And Germany never quit doing what they do best. And they pride themselves on superior engineering, but you pay for it.
Yeah.
And they've just kind of stuck to their guns, and they found ways when things went bad to keep their employees okay. Or, I know there's all kinds of things I've read about how they adjust pay, or they do all kinds of stuff to keep the machine going so that we're cranking out Mercedes, and Beamers and stuff like that. And there's stuff to learn from them for sure. I don't think of America as the ultimate supreme engineering superpower, high cost superpower like Germany is, but compared to Asian manufacturers, we kind of look that way, relatively speaking. Yeah. And so I'm sure there's things that we could learn from the German manufacturing that could help America.
Yeah. If anything, the thing that we should learn is the fire under our butts, and that, global competition doesn't mean that you have any quarter for being complacent. So the funny, actually, it's not that funny. So way back in the day when I was in South Korea for my grad school, I heard a lot of U.S. Business folks talk about South Korean engineering and creativity, and I said it's all crap. These guys don't have any. I mean, it's pretty racist crap. Basically saying that South Koreans are just copycats. They won't amount to anything. Their engineering sucks. Look at the Hyundai XL. It's a piece of crap. It's never going to amount to anything. Well, need I say more?
Hyundai Santa Fe.
But the point being is that those guys have a fire under their ass. What's his name? Fareed Zakaria, the guy on CNN, that analyst, is asking the chairman of TSMC, how can you explain the Taiwan miracle? And his response was this, is like, well, from the outside, it might look like a miracle, but for the people on the inside, it's hard work. We busted our asses. Mm-hmm. And instead of focusing on the real ingredient, Zakari is sitting there just focusing on the miracle, whatever the hell that means. Like somehow magic made that happen. And that's such the wrong attitude. The lesson you should take away from it is that these guys invested so much money into a highly educated workforce, invested tons of capital, and gambled on a very difficult industry at the time. And they friggin' kicked ass.
They grinded it out. They grinded it out. They did the hard work, and nothing happened. There was no overnight
miracle. Like what is like, deity came down and blessed them and somehow, gave them a cheat sheet on how to create a miracle. It is such a moronic.
It took decades.
To even say,
It took decades, but they kept grinding and grinding. The CEO there at TSMC is a really humble human being.
Oh yeah,
and he's like almost to a fault. Like, he still thinks of Intel as the great chip maker. And he's like, I don't know how this just kind of happened. We just kept at it. We always looked up to Intel, but we put our heads down
doing it.
You know what? It is the grind, and it is not giving up, and it's staying focused. Do you remember, if you were alive, folks, in the 1980s, let me say the late 80s, for instance, do you remember when the first Hyundai cars arrived in America in the late 80s? And you could get one, I think they were $5,000 or $5,500.
No, it was like $499.
Yeah, what was it? Was it the Hyundai Access?
XL, yeah.
Yeah, and so they came out with that and yes, people laughed about it. You know what, though? A whole lot of people who couldn't afford regular cars bought those Hyundais, and it actually was a lifeline to a lot of people. Those cars were so significantly cheaper than anything else you could buy. It was we talk about the digital divide. That helped create, that crossed a divide for a lot of people who could not afford a car otherwise.
Even today.
And then Hyundai did another thing, because you know what? You're right. They were always up against it. They were always getting bashed. And so they were also the first car company to say, okay, we're going to do a 10-year, warranty on the engine and all the other stuff like that, which seemed crazy, but they had to do it because people didn't necessarily trust that the car was going to be okay. And so they gave it this awesome warranty. And then they just kept grinding and grinding and grinding, and now you've got the Genesis.
Yeah, yeah, and they have the whole K design. I think that's what they call it. Their own design, And I remember Europeans way back in the day, they were looking at Korean fashion. They were making fun of it. They said it's a joke. And now even the Europeans are looking at Korean designs. And so the point I'm trying to make here, and by the way, I'm ethnic Korean, so when the Hyundai XL first came out, I was like super embarrassed. It was
what's weird about it now?
Come on, people, represent. Put out something.
It's not in that category of. I don't ever see it as a category of a cheap vehicle. I see now, like Kia inched in on that one, and they're economical and they're budget friendly, and even they are starting to get expensive. So it's like a lot of these budget friendly companies, they develop the trust that, like Rob mentioned, and then they can actually start charging more. But someone else is going to come in with an economical brand, and they're going to go after that market, because we still have. And I think that market might even be growing right now, right?
Yeah. I mean, we have to just be constantly uncomfortable. And striving to do better and be ahead of the rest of the world, and not assume just because stuff is from a certain region that it's inferior. Because I'll tell you right now, there's a lot of German companies that are seeing Chinese design firms up their game significantly, and they're also multiple times cheaper, and they are almost forced by economics to continue to source out of China. It's just so much cheaper to make a mold, and get design services in China. So the question is not how do we bring jobs back. It's more of how do we up our game? What do we have to do next? Because it's not about what you think went over. It's what's that new thing that makes you more competitive? That's the harder question. That's the tougher mission. And there's no benefit in bringing anything from over there back, if you really think about it, because the stuff makes you blind. I mean, do you really think we can find anybody, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who are going to assemble iPhones? you know?
And we can't even fill the retail, market right now. The gap is so massive right now. No one wants those positions. So yeah, that part scares me, is that we're already struggling right now with positions and filling those positions. So where are we going to find these people to fill the manufacturing positions unless we really create a whole nother level of pay and benefits that they need?
I don't need to tell you guys or our audience, but there are some phenomenal subreddits on this topic, because it's like, we want these entry level jobs to fill in your blank entry level, but we want to pay. And again, whichever camp, whether the pay is too little or the employee does not see value out of that pay, right? Take your pick. It doesn't really matter, but it's not sustainable. It's and I was having conversations where you go to, I don't know, pick a place, pick your favorite retailer, pick your favorite local food chain that you have here. The quality and the training of these frontline folks, it's not getting better, and these folks are being abused by impatient customers. And every day, I mean, the McDonald's being trashed and the KFC's being trashed, but it's ugly, and it's happening also at like local mom and pop. I put too many strawberries on your milkshake, and that's gonna cause a customer to just trash my store. It's horrible. We are horrible.
And usually the first thing that's said out of the people that quit is, I don't get paid enough for this shit. I'm out. I'm out.
And that's the thing. And I think, if employers heard that, because it's not that, hey, if my job is, it's a safe environment and my job is to flip burgers. Look, I'll do it. Like, I've got bills to pay. I will go do it. But I don't want to, I don't want to get stuff thrown at me over the counter or have someone, because that's different. Give me hazard pay. And we know about hazard pay when you get shipped to questionable environments. So it's super crazy. And Rob, when you used, I was not here in the US in the early 80s yet. So I'm connecting your cheap Hyundai as a way of, to help the divide with transportation. In the mid 90s in Dominican Republic, and this is my Hyundai story for trivia. And I don't know who did it, but there was an entrepreneur who knew that these Korean vehicles were being, I don't know if it's high quality, but good enough quality that he bought a bulk of these used vehicles that had hundreds of thousands of kilometers in Asian markets, brought them to Dominican Republic, retrofitted them with using a LPG for fuel. And for decades, that became the way that a person with no means could acquire a vehicle to start driving our public transportation system.
Wow.
And again, like now thinking about, 20 years later, acquiring that vehicle for a cost that someone could at least get a loan for, literally enable tens of thousands of people to get out there and do work so that maybe their kids wouldn't have to do that.
Absolutely.
And these are the things that if we have sectors of the population that cannot afford broadband or a vehicle or have public transportation, it's going to bite us in the butt just really, really quick.
And again, all those things that you just mentioned are infrastructure related, right? It's almost like we need food, we need shelter, we need infrastructure. It's one of those basic building blocks as part of our society that we need. And we're still in that digital divide mode across the US for sure.
Because raising people up so they can get jobs and have a life. Broadband, low cost broadband today is semi-equivalent to low cost Hyundais in Dominican Republic and America back in the 80s and 90s. Transportation, you had to go somewhere to do a job, and most people still do that. and that's lifts people up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that shift over COVID, the pandemic, pushed so many jobs and positions back to the home, and they've remained there, and they're not going back. And you have to have that building block, that infrastructure, that internet access to work. And so I think that's a big shift that we've seen. And a lot of companies realized, oh, we can keep our employees at home, or some of our employees, or groups or titles, certain titles, home. And then they were relying on them to have internet. Were they reimbursing them for their internet? Most of them not. They weren't doing that. Were they providing them with a laptop at home? Not all of them. So only the professionals, certain companies had that kind of process set in place. And so they just were expecting folks to have equipment and have internet. So that's where we are.
Yeah, but I mean, we have to recognize that it's also a very niche thing. As much as in our ecosphere, this whole work from home and work from anywhere thing sounds like the next big thing. But for the vast majority of people, that is not even close to the thing, and so I think it is kind of... It's
much larger though than you think, Leonard. Like, it's much larger than you think, just because we have moved so many models to as a service that are more customer relationship building, sales building, marketing building. All those positions are at home. But I get what you're saying on the side. There's certain industries that will never, ever, ever go home.
Or I mean, think about all those folks that are working in a Amazon warehouse. Do they to work from
distribution, supply chain, manufacturing workers?
Vast majority of everyone.
Those guys, they cannot work from home, and they have to pee in a bottle in the parking lot so they don't get written up.
By the way, I have two nephews that work at the Amazon facility in Forney, Texas. So I hear all the inside Amazon stories. It's pretty interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, so
and they pay well. They pay very well.
Yeah.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
They work in a fulfillment center?
Yeah. One's a forklift driver, and another one is just doing inventory stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, but you have to be on site for a lot of that stuff. And they actually have to be on site for a lot of things.
It'd be interesting to know the percentage of people who have jobs where they have to be on site to do the job versus people like some of us who've been able to do it from home. I don't know what the percentages are.
Yeah, might be something definitely to explore and look at, because that's those kind of categorizations or segmentations mean it's a completely different thing in how you market and sell through, and how you work with them, and what tools they need from home versus those that are in the office, or those that never even, that are roamers that travel everywhere they go. They're not actually in a headquarters or in a plant.
Right. But those folks have been sort of flexible, have had flexible working conditions, and have been working either from home or remotely forever. It's not a net new thing, and that's where I think the net new number of people is actually that number is much smaller than we think. It's I think smaller than what we think, because when I was at IBM, I basically worked remotely, and if I didn't if I was on the beach or whatever, or didn't have a project, I was at home or on a client side or what have you. But the whole work from home thing though, I don't think that it's as big as people have made it out to be. But to your point, Rob, it'd be interesting to get the real numbers. But I think it's overweighted in how we talk about digital stuff,
The people that made a big deal of the work from home were the people that had to be in an office environment, and that was their job, by the way. Like I applied for a job and I had a job that was 9 to 5 in an office willingly. And then they realized, holy crap, are you kidding me? Like there's no difference. Yeah. But to your point, Leonard, that's like a segment, because us four, we kind of been doing this thing before WFA was, so it's like, okay, whatever. And
20 years.
Right. And then if you have, like relatives of Stephanie that work in a fulfillment center, well, you could never meld that one in. Yeah. So I think it was made up by a complaining segment and by another segment of the people that moved up the corporate ranks just because they showed up, not because they delivered anything, but they were there. They were there every day. You must be good. I don't know what you've done.
Well, it's like weird how it's represented in the media as well, because like, they're making this big stink about Apple asking, their employees to come back. And there's a petition amongst a number of most, as they put it, most Apple employees wanting to protest it and work from home. Well, it just happens that that petition was signed by about 200 people. I don't know how you get most Apple employees protesting that, come back to office policy. How do you get there, So anyways, I just want to...
I think the crazy news I heard...
Things about...
The crazy related news I heard about work from home is the number of companies that are keeping their employees at home, but they're number one, asking them, it's required that you turn on your camera when you're having a meeting when we're talking to you. Yeah, it's required. So that means that people that were dressed in their pajamas for months on end, years on end, they now have to actually get cleaned up maybe a little bit or gear up. And then the other thing is there are some companies that are wanting to have the camera on the whole time you're working. So a monitoring of you. Yeah. And I'm like, well, that's definitely not happening. We're going to be massive pushback.
But this is, and again, these are outliers, because I could tell you, won't name names, but I could tell you that there's two high finance global companies that for years have monitored activity on employees' laptops by mouse movements. And if certain time pass and there's been no movement, you're going to get pinged by somebody because they want you on this terminal when the market's open. Which is why, by the way, folks, again, subreddit /anti-work, you can actually buy a device on Amazon for like $10. You plug it into USB port, you plug in your mouse, and it'll move it for you. So
yes, it will.
I am not kidding. I am not kidding. Okay? This is a thing. Someone saw an opportunity for this market and said, yes.
Well, if you're a broker or you're a stock trader, isn't it required by law to have those logs? There's logs that are kept that show all of the trades and exchanges, like keystroke by keystroke. I forgot what the name for that is, but there's a storage required of those particular brokers. Like there's specific mandates, requirements that the U.S. has on those folks. I remember talking to a carrier about that before. So it's been probably 8 years ago that we were talking about the requirements for computer activity by stockbroker to be stored for finance mandate, or I don't know if it's SEC or it's something that requires that.
I'm surprised. Wow. Interesting. I'll have to look that up.
Yep.
Wow. What an interesting, wide-ranging conversation today about
we're jumping all over
and grinding it out. A lot of people don't realize. Here's a little trivia. So Japan had its own, meager beginnings after, in the automotive industry.
Yeah.
Many years before Korea and others got into it, they were the first. And there was a car Honda came out with in the 70s, and it was called the CVCC. And it was based on motorcycle chain drive to drive a tiny car. And that car became the Honda Civic, but the word Civic was just derived from the CVCC motorcycle chain drive thing. They basically just took stuff they knew how to do. The Japanese were making motorcycles, if you'll remember.
Yeah.
They weren't big into cars yet, so this is just ingenuity and grinding it out and looking at a problem and go, well, could I use the same mechanism for a motorcycle and put 4 tires on it as long as the car is not too big? Oh yeah, I can do that. And and you got this little car, and then the rest is history. And then you grind it out, and the next year it gets a little better, and then a little better. And this goes back to Deming, total quality management, continuous improvement, which led to the Toyota way, which led to lean manufacturing, which blew up the whole planet and changed everything. And it's just grinding it out and incremental improvements every day.
Yeah,
pretty cool stuff. Lots of lessons to be learned, I think.
Yeah.
Yep. I love it.
When I have like Leonard Lee money, I would love to own a Land Cruiser.
What?
OG Land Cruiser?
A Land Cruiser, like a Toyota Land Cruiser. Like you can drive that thing for like a billion miles and go to Jupiter and back. And you just need oil changes.
Yeah.
Hey, man.
We're talking about the OG Land Cruisers, like from way back when they looked really crazy cool. Are you talking about the new ones?
No, you know what?
The old ones are.
The old ones are like, the old ones are the ones that people are spending crazy money to get. And there's apparently in the LA area, there's like a whole shop that's devoted to you taking the Land Cruiser you found, and they remake it, restore it, make sure you have the the metal around the sides, and you got the fire extinguisher on it, and you got the exhaust way up high, and you can go do the Serengeti thing.
My dream ride, Rob, is the 92 Land Cruiser, because I would love to go to Trader Joe's to get my frozen burritos in this big machine. Yeah.
It's frozen burritos.
They're good. Trader Joe's frozen burritos. They're lifesavers. I highly recommend them.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to try those.
Those are lifesavers. Another digital divide lifesaver I remember for me working through college was, a lot of people don't remember, way back when Taco Bell was teetering on oblivion. It wasn't sure that they were going to win the fast food wars like they did in that movie. And so there was a time when the basic taco at Taco Bell was 35 cents. And so you could survive on Taco Bell going through college if your tacos were only 35 cents. So that's kind of like your Hyundai for $49.95 and Taco Bell. All of a sudden, you were in business, baby.
And ponchos. Ponchos.
If you survive eating at Ponchos, then you'll survive COVID.
Oh my God!
These are the anecdotes that I really think the big CEOs just don't know that they exist. Because Rob, if you want to talk about 35-cent tacos, I think still is. There's a chain called Food for Less in LA. They had one east of Sunset, halfway to Dodger Stadium, and that's where I would go to buy, eating healthy. But that's where you would get the cheapest veggies, because they were basically 13 minutes from decomposing.
Yes.
You could, no, I'm not making this up. But
Second life.
Your 35-cent tacos was my, going to Food for Less to, do the grocery shopping, because the Safeway, Kroger, Fred Meyer, let's not talk about Whole Foods at that time, right? You just couldn't cut it. So that's, that's where me and my buds went.
I love that.
To find our version of the 35-cent tacos, because we got to eat.
Yeah. Absolutely. God,
that's why at Ponchos we'd go and you get like a family pack, and it'd be like 20 tacos, 20 this, 20 that. And it was this big old platter, and you'd bring it home, and all the college kids would just gather around and eat it, and it would be like $12. Like, it's something so cheap. We would all
right.
You find that you can really, if you go to college and you're running on no money, that's where you really learn how to pinch a penny.
Oh yeah.
And find good food for less.
Yeah. Roberto's street tacos and burritos.
It's interesting to see the businesses that rise during these recessions.
Yeah.
Obviously, you watch the stock price of the dollar store, Dollar General, all these kind of places, they start to go up as everything else is going down.
Yeah.
Is it me or with you guys? Is like it was always the meal was always less than $5, so $5 was always the number for me per person. And now Wendy's comes out with some little meal deal, and it's $5. You get this, and I'm like, whoa, now that's cool. Even though I don't eat at Wendy's, I'm like, they're completely going back to that. I'm like, I love it.
Oh my God.
It does seem like the previously $5 whatever meals, name your fast food joint, is now around $8 or $9 or $10.
And it's smaller.
And it's smaller.
Yeah, the burger was here. Now it's bite-sized.
Well, you can't really complain when, like, if you go to like a sit-down restaurant and burgers are like $20 now. I don't know how we got there. It's just like ridiculous, man.
And you ask the owner, and he goes, hey, it's capitalism, whatever the market will bear.
Yeah. And
I found enough idiots on the street who are going to pay me $20 for this burger, so I'm going to stick to that price.
Speaking of that, Rob, the barbecue places in Texas are so expensive now because their meat's so expensive.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like $20, $30 a plate, like literally a plate. And so,
I'd be surprised.
like, we took our kids, it was like $90. It's just 4 of us, $90. And we were like, this is, my husband's like, when are we starting our own barbecue joint stuff?
You remember when spending big money like that was like if you took the family to like a high-end steakhouse or Ruth's Chris.
Yeah.
And now it's just any old place.
Any old place. Yeah. $15 burritos and stuff. And
we are all frogs boiling slowly in the pot.
And we're dating ourselves for sure.
Oh yeah. I'll never be able to get another job again because I dated myself. I told you he was.
What are we going to call this episode? Grit?
Yeah, it's grit. It's grind.
Grit, right? Grind it out. It's not easy.
Never stop. People start kicking sand in your face when you're a nobody, but you don't quit. And then
closing the divide in everything.
Yeah, for sure.
That is true. It's like when people kick sand in your face, you gotta develop that got to get back kind of instinct,
there's a reason why we talk about this stuff is because we have action around closing divides. Obviously, we've been doing the digital divide stuff with Elevate Our Kids, and you see those disparities.
Yeah.
Well, the laptop disparity, the connectivity disparity, and we're talking about a whole lot more.
Cars, infrastructure.
Cars, food, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. I think for me, I will never, ever forget my roots. And, I grew up, I was considered middle class, but we were very, very poor. And I grew up in a neighborhood with gangs and violence, and it was South Dallas, it's South Side. I mean, it was rough. And looking back on that, I thought it was normal, thought it was good. I thought it was safe, but it wasn't. And, I will never forget my roots. So for me, anytime I can go back and do good and give back and make a difference in kids' lives or help someone or help with STEM, help people understand the value in that career. Like, that's what I want to do. That's what makes me happy. I think that's what we should be doing more of.
Yeah.
Keep it going.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Turn the volume up to 11 on this stuff.
Yeah. Hey. This is what do you call it? It's like Bill Maher's what do you call it? After thing that he does.
After party.
Yeah.
After party.
Yeah. What's up, dude?
IoT bar talk, not a coffee talk. Bar talk.
Right. Oh my gosh. Hanging out in the Pyrenees there. Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Good weather. Yeah. So, this week I'm preparing all the events for the next 2 months. And it's pretty exciting. The Horizon, the Things Conference. I'm as well speaking at the Edge Impulse Imagine Conference, ARMDev Summit. Yeah. It's going to be super interesting.
I was thinking about going to the Edge Impulse thing. It seems like it's at the same time as MWC, maybe. Or there might be
Vegas, you mean? Yeah. But it's virtual. Most of the talks, so only one day. It's
because they said, hey, come down because it's going to be at the Computer History Museum.
Yeah, the museum. Yeah,
that's a cool place.
So is Tiny ML growing?
Yeah, it's a thing, you know. It's just going to happen.
Yeah, no,
I mean, you know, I'll shoot myself if someone comes up with a friggin' forecast for Tiny ML. Oh my god,
you should come up with.
Wait for it.
Let the IoT giant come up with the Tiny ML
forecast.
Yes,
like
you analysts on the call who come up with forecasts. Maybe one day I could be a junior analyst working for both of you, washing dishes.
A junior analyst.
You know, that's how forecasts are made. You wash dishes. They're made out of dishes, dirty dishes.
Dirty dishes and soap.
So sounds good.
Yeah. So, but we envy you, man. You were on a cruise ship last week.
No, 2 weeks ago. No.
Oh, 2 weeks ago? Was it 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, time flies.
Oh man.
Yeah.
But it's gonna be fun to see you, man. And
so you're going to Amsterdam and San Francisco, right?
San Francisco, I think I'm going to have to. I'm gonna probably attend virtually because I have too many things going on that week.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what's the plan for Mobile World Congress in Vegas? Is it going to be big or?
I think so. I think it'll be decent size. It'll probably take up like one or two halls.
It's first time.
Just not a fan of Vegas, but
it's the first time. I hate Vegas, but
yeah, it's not my favorite place. But I like the food. I like the wine.
We'll all be there, and we should all arrange for a dinner.
Yeah.
When we're there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The Taco Bell.
Taco Bell.
Taco Bell.
Yeah, American cuisine. Don't you know?
I remember the last time Stephanie and I were in Vegas. I think we ate at the Palm restaurant, and
we ate very well.
We ate very well there in the Foreign Tops area. That was nice.
Yeah.
Yummy.
Good times.
I do appreciate the good food in Vegas.
Yes, absolutely.
With a side of sin.
Yes.
Yeah. A side order of sin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never get to that point. It's like all meetings and tech discussions and then good food.
Right.
I never never hardly ever get to the tables. I don't go do a show. I don't do any of that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump over for you Vegas people. Black 26 on roulette. That's all you need to know.
All you need to know.
I'm going to put some money on that.
Not a lot of money, though. I'm not responsible. This is not gambling advice. This was entertainment.
I usually I'll always do 100 on black somewhere in Vegas. Just walking by a table, I'll just throw it down and then whatever happens. And about 90% of the time I'll win and then I'll walk away.
Oh. I mean, that's good. 90% at $100. That's good odds.
Yeah.
Pretty good odds. Yeah.
Jeez, you should do that for a living. Crazy.
Last time I was there, I played roulette and there was a drunk guy playing at the same roulette than me. And he was asking people randomly walking around, okay, what day you were born?
Oh my God.
27. Okay, 500 to 27.
Oh
and then, of course, he was losing all the time. And he was like, hey, you were born in a really bad day. Like, come on, guys. It was hilarious.
He was drunk, all right. Lost his mind.
I mean, you have free drinks if you play. So this is crazy.
Well,
I can't drink any. The older I get, I can't drink like that anymore. Like I will have a 2-day hangover. Like I can't. Yeah. My body says no, Stephanie. You can't do that anymore. So I can't do it.
That's a young people's game. That whole drinking.
I do. Like a lot of times, if you see me at those tech events and everyone's drinking, I'll have a club soda in line and look like I'm drinking, but I'm not drinking.
Right.
All right, David. Great having you back, man. It's been too long.
Thank you. I know.
Yes, good seeing your face.
Smart ass remarks.
His smile.
I know. Absolutely. Okay, who's gonna take us out?
I think David is.
Yes.
All right. Well, folks, if you're still here, that means that you've made it through another amazing IoT Coffee Talk brought to you by these 4 good humans. And we've gone the range today, but it's about grit. It's about not stopping. It's about not giving up. It's about doing the right things when no one's looking, right? Integrity. So thank you for hanging out. If you just discovered us today, welcome to the crew. Make sure to like, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your neighbors, send a telegram, whatever means of communication to spread the word. Do it. And there you go. And we will see you here next week on the most consistent, all right, the most consistent IoT YouTube show in the history of the YouTubes and the interwebs. This is it, IoT Coffee Talk. So folks, www.iotcoffeetalk.com. Subscribe, like, and we will see you next week. Stay safe. Peace out. Go vote.
Peace out. Go vote. All that stuff.